Next up, we have Strong One, Masked Man Restored, from the Mother 3 soundtrack. Does it say who composed it? Shogo Sakai. There you go. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA, a layman-friendly analysis. I am a professionally trained musician / composer, and my objective here is to explain things in a way that you don't have to be a professionally trained musician to understand what is happening here musically. If you like the sound of that and you're watching the YouTube archive, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, all that good stuff. This is recorded live on stream, so there's going to be a lot of pausing in this video, kind of like React style, because I will be explaining things as I hear them, as I pick them up. And also consider that this is live on stream, so I might stumble upon my words here or there, so just keep that in mind. And with that being said, make sure you're subscribed, like, all that kind of stuff. We recently passed 500 subscribers. I'm super happy about that. Thank you so much to everybody who has joined us. And yeah, let's listen to this. Strong One, Masked Man Restored. Let's go. We are 5 seconds in, and I already love this. So we start with one of my favorite orchestral instruments, the timpani. The timpani being, of course, these big bad boys, usually, that you will see. These hold a very special place in an orchestra. This is one of the few orchestral drums that are actually pitched. So not only do they serve the purpose of the rhythm instrument that they also kind of sound like a bass that plays the notes. Because usually most of the other instruments, a bass drum, kind of like this one over here, that one will be pitched, but it's pitched in such a weird way that is not what matters. What matters is the oomph that these instruments give. So the timpani gives you both that oomph and it gives you those notes. And it allows you to play melodies on these drums, which is a fairly unusual thing. Like, unless you're somebody like Mike Mangini, the ex-drummer of Dream Theater now, who has a drum kit with like 32 drums, and each of those is tuned to a specific note, then yeah, you're not gonna get a drum or a percussion like this that is pitched. Usually that is reserved for the more keyboard-esque looking instruments, like a marimba or a xylophone or a glockenspiel, which are considerably smaller and are made for melodies. And as opposed to that, the timpani just has that oomph to it. So let's continue. So I really like this. So we also have a drum kit on top of this, and we are having this very, very cool call and response between the timpani, the drum kit, and this little synth, giving us the motif. The motif, of course, being the smallest version of your musical idea, the seed from which your melodies will come from. Usually a motif tends to be melodic. There are times when it's a rhythm motif. It's fairly rare for that to happen, but it does happen. Usually your motif is going to be a melody. So we have this call and response. The drums are playing something, and then the synth follows up immediately. And it's happening with such a sense of syncopation. Once again, the concept of syncopation is the concept where you play against the established beat. So the established beat is usually your metronome, and it's going to tell you, you're in 4/4, 1 2 3 4, 1 2 3 4, and syncopation is to play in between those against that beat. Very common in jazz, very common in funk, in metal. It's fairly common nowadays, especially for things like djent and prog metal and that kind of thing, where you have a lot of this kind of syncopation. But this time we're having the timpani keeping a steady beat, playing on beat, and we have these other drums and the synth playing against the beat, playing in that down in that offbeat and the syncopation, doing those syncopations, which just gives you that sense of, there's two things going on. So let's continue. Let's see where this goes. And then we have, of course, that really cool synth. I just noticed it again. A synth doing both a glissando and panning at the same time. So, the concept of a glissando is when an instrument plays a scale really, really fast. The most obvious example of that has always been a harp. Just playing through the harp, just strumming all the strings because it lets you go through the scale really, really fast. Another one being the piano, when you just put one finger on one key and you just slide it throughout the entirety. And now we're getting it really, really fast on this synth. And on top of this, we are doing panning. Now, when we've discussed panning in this channel before, we have discussed the concept of set panning or passive, let's call it panning. So let's say, you're this over here, malfigured and everything as you may be, but we still love you all the same. And you have your left ear and you have your right ear. And the concept of panning is that usually in stereo music, you will have an equal amount of sound coming from each ear. And then when you get panning is when one instrument has more sound, one ear has more sound than the other. And so far in the tracks that we've heard, most of them, whenever there's panning, it's just going to be there, right? Like the strings are going to be in the left ear, and that's where they're going to stay. But what we're having here in this track is, sorry, I hit the microphone, is we're having active panning. Which means the synth, while it's doing its glissando, it's going from the left ear to the right ear. So the lowest note plays on the left ear and the highest note plays on the right ear. I only listen to music in mono. It can be preferable, especially if you're somebody that listens with one headphone off. But this is one of the cool things about panning, that you can have these kinds of little details of the glissando also having panning going from one ear to the other, which gives you this sense of, zooming through. So, and left ear and right ear, fifth ear, fourth dimension. There you go. There you go. So really, really cool, cool little, just little concept over here. Such a subtle thing that it took me a couple of listens to notice. There you go. There you go. And I like how this drum set keeps getting more and more complicated while the synth is trying to stay as is. It's trying to stay as it is. And the drum set keeps trying to mess up more and more with what the timpani is doing. Like every time the drum set repeats the fill, it keeps adding one more note, one bit, extra bit, to kind of interrupt the timpani while everything else is kind of, this is really cool. Oh, we had a string there. We had some violins, I think some cellos maybe. Okay. I like this. This is such an unstable sound for what sounds to be a pretty straightforward time signature, but at the same time, we are getting this sense of every time it repeats, there's something slightly different. You're not quite getting the same experience over and over and over. This is really, really cool. Oh, there we go, some synths. Oh, the synths took over the timpani. There's no more timpani. The drum kit won. Oh, now it's just the drums. And we bring in this other chord. I like this. It's still playing to the rhythm of the timpani, even though the timpani isn't there. That's when the keys are being struck. But because this drum kit was playing so against the beat of the timpani, the keyboard now playing to the beat of the timpani makes it sound off. This is really creative. This is really creative. As weird as it gets, with the exception of the enemies you fight are just normal auctions or oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I don't know much about these games. So this being so weird, so out of this world, so alien, really cool. Let's see where this goes next. Oh, back comes the timpani. A short fill with the snare, and back we go to this. You can tell these are virtual instruments because a drummer being able to play this would have taken so many takes. God bless virtual music, man, because with virtual instruments, you don't need real players. And they say AI is bad. Because the Indian crossed my mind. Ooh, we'll talk about that in a second, yeah. We'll go through the list. We're back to that initial point. Yeah, there was a cello there. So, not only are we getting this extremely weird, off-putting, like rhythmically, consistently inconsistent rhythm, we started with section A, we did a short section B, we're back to section A. This is such, like, once you take into account all the weird things that are happening in the measures, this is such a straightforward piece. This is absolutely insane how clever this is. This is so, it's not baby oil. This is so crazy how straightforward this is. I love that people don't have the context for that. Recapitulation. Flat out repeat. No way we're doing a rondo. No way we're doing a rondo, dude. I keep misguessing for these, but the rondo, so this is an ABA form. It's a simple form. It's usually a simple binary, I think it's what it's called. But then there is one of my favorite types of compositions, the rondo. Rondo means to go around, which usually means you play A, the section A, your thing, then section B, which we heard, which is when there was just the drum kit with those strings being super weird. Then we go back to A, and if this goes the way of the rondo, we should hear a section C, which is going to be something completely unlike section B, something completely new, but not entirely completely different either. It's still going to feel like another evolution of this piece. Let's see if I'm right, because the amount of times by now that I've been wrong about whether or not something turns out to be a rondo is more than one, so let's see. And another thing before I forget, the motif turned out to not be the little synth up there, it turned out to be the drums. It's a rhythmic motif that just gets repeated over and over. On top of that, we have this very, very nice simple melody with the synths, but it is not the main motif. The main motif has been this drum kit. This is the second track in a row that we do today where the main motif is rhythmic. This is, in my experience, rhythmic motifs are pretty unusual. These are pretty extraordinary things to listen to, and the fact that we got two in a row, this is really cool. Let's continue. There we go, we go back to here. We might be going back to a B then. Because this is how B started the same last time. Yep. Okay, so we're in simple binary. We are in simple binary. Binary, we are A, B, A, B. If it's consistently inconsistent, then is it really inconsistent? Yep, exactly. It's a simple binary. And this has so many things going for it. There are so many little details in between the repeats that even though we are literally just playing A, B over and over again, this is not the first time we've had something like this, that we have section A, section B, and then literally just repeat repeat over and over and over and over and over again, times infinite until you fade it out, or until the change of scenery. This is not the first time we've seen this. But there are so many little details. Like last time we saw something this straightforward, this simple, was the Batman game from the 80s, from the NES, where part of the reason why it was such a simple binary was the limitations of the hardware of the time, which is 8-bit music. I think this might be 16-bit music, which allows for a lot more. Considering the quality of this might be early 32-bit. I'm not entirely sure. Continue. I love that there is like 2 notes played by a cello. There's 2 notes played by a cello, and it goes by so fast that you have to actually ask yourself, was it really there? This is the 3rd time we hear it, so it's there. But I am blown away by this. It's so cool. Nice. Going back, see that. Yeah, and we go back to B. There we go. And it's probably going to finish with that snare fill. It's probably going to finish with that snare. Okay, this is going to fade out then. Yeah, called it. There you go. So it is a simple binary that we just heard. And just repeat times infinity. So this, again, this is where I believe fade outs are merited for older hardware, where you only have a certain amount of time and you only have a certain amount of space that you can mess around with. So having these fairly straight, I mean, this is not simple in the least, but having these straightforward pieces that you just loop over and over again during the level that you're in makes complete sense to me. We no longer live in this age. Audio engines have changed a lot, so I'm against fade outs after Mario 64, after the Nintendo 64 came out. I think that's where I draw the line. Like after N64, anything after that, fade outs I consider to be lazy. But here it is very, very straightforward. What a trip that was. It had timpani, the drum set, the one synth that zooms by, the synth that plays the melody, the synth which is the same synth that plays the chords in the second part, and a cello. 6 layers of music. I mean, if we don't count, if we break down the drum set, then let's say hi-hat and snare and 2 sets of toms. Because I heard 2 sets of toms, plus the kick, so 11 layers of music. 11 layers for something that sounded this complex is insane. It's absolutely insane. Regardless, there are no repeating patterns in a song at all. Gent. That's what I would call it. Which is one of the downsides of gent. That they don't have that sense of familiarity. Which, again, repetition is your friend in music, which is why this being a simple binary, so this is not a rondo, this is a simple binary, because you have part A and you have part B, and then you play part A again, and then you have part B again, and that's it. That's all you get. You just have really good music on top of it, really weird sounding that is going to fit the world that you're playing in. It's not going to take that much space in the cartridge. It's not going to take, or the CD, whatever it is that they were using. And if it's binary, why do I see a lot of A's and B's but not ones and zeros? Very good question. The same reason why musicians use the terms parallel and relative wrong, because musicians should not be trusted with naming things. That is precisely why. Because letters and okay, in the term in when it comes to using letters instead of numbers for this kind of thing, it makes sense because if you write this down on sheet music, the bars are going to be numbered. So, section A is going to be a set of 4 bars, so it's bars 1, 2, 3, and 4. So having section 1 on bar 11, that might become a little bit confusing. But if you have section A on bar 11, or section B on bar 11, then it becomes a lot more straightforward. So, come on, James, you're not that young anymore. This was on floppy disk? Right, there were floppy disks. I never used floppy disks. I did not use floppy disks. Jesus, I misspoke there. Mainly because Guatemala was behind the times. The earliest computer I used had CD-ROMs. But that was because we were very, very far behind technologically. We didn't get a computer for a long time. But yeah, no, there you go. This was a simple binary in that sense. And I will explain parallel and relative right now. You know what? Because I brought it up. We have music scales that usually have 7 notes. In the West, most scales will have 7 notes, and it goes back to the 1, which we call the octave. A parallel scale is the concept of you have 2 scales that you're going to compare. A parallel scale means that they both start and end on the same note, and the notes in between are different. That is a parallel scale. Then you have a relative scale where both scales contain the same notes, but the starting points are in 2 separate parts of the same scale. They contain the same notes, they just start in separate places. That is what we call a relative scale. So like major and minor? Yes. So, for example, if we were to say these 7 notes are the major scale, so major scale is in number 1, the relative minor scale would be on number 6. That's the 6th mode. The parallel minor scale would start on the same note, and it would be the notes in between that compose it as the minor scale. Problem is, when you write these down on sheet music, let me make a quick makeshift sheet music over here. Real quick. So we have this, we have our little clef. Pretend that these lines are equal in size. So let's say we have 2 scales, right? I'm going to draw you the parallel scale. So we have C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. So, for a parallel scale on C, we would just change one of the notes here. So we would change maybe D to D flat or D sharp, E to E flat. So we were to just change it to the C parallel scale, it's the parallel C minor scale. We would be switching E to E flat, A to A flat, and B to B flat. Now we have the parallel scale of C. However, let me write this here. If we were to make the relative scale, let's say we started from G, Mixolydian, so we have G, A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. This is the G Mixolydian scale. If we were to play these together, they are called relative scales, playing parallel to each other. If we were to play C major and C minor, we would have the C major and the C minor scale playing together in a relative scale. The relative scale playing relative to each other. The concepts are backwards for relative and parallel scales. parallel should be called relative. Relative should be parallel. But for some reason, okay, cool. And for some reason, they are not. Do not let musicians name things. This is the lesson here. Do not let a musician name things. And trust me, it gets so much worse. I'll give some anecdotes after this in the stream. But no, for now, let's finish this. This was a really cool track. Strong One, Masked Man Restored from Mother 3, composed by Shogo Sakai. Really, really fun. Really fun. That was really, really good. I loved how straightforward the binary was. It was just really fun. Really fun. Once again, everybody, this is a Basterd's LFA. Layman-friendly analysis. I'm a professionally trained musician, a composer, and I hope that I have explained things in a way that you don't have to be a musician to understand what has happened here. If you're watching the video archive and you like what you just witnessed here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, follow whatever term you want to use, like the video, share the video, join the Discord, all that good stuff. If you want to catch the streams live, make sure to check the description. We have the Twitch and the Discord with the schedules on your local time zone, so that you can see if you can join us for one of these. If you want to listen to the full track, I will link it down in the description. I link it for all of the LFAs, have the original track linked so that you can go and listen to it uninterrupted and support the channels where this happens. And finally, if you want to request a song, just leave a comment. If you're watching this on the video archive, just leave a comment and let me know what song from which game you want to do. Game soundtracks only, original soundtracks only, because copyright and all that stuff. So yeah, thank you for watching. That is that. This is Strong One, Masked Man Restored. Really, really good stuff. That was so much fun, dude. But yeah, let's move on.